So let's say you have a garment with an elastic waist and it is just too big. It's hanging and falling off of you. How are you going to adjust this? Well, follow along and I'm going to teach you how to adjust anything with an elastic waist. So that way it fits you just right. This process is super easy and it only takes a few steps. And then you're going to be able to wear your garment with confidence. The first thing we need to do is figure out how much smaller do we want the waist. So I'm going to pull the skirt up to the waist because that's where we want to wear it. And we don't want it to fall off. So we want the elastic to be, firm, snug, not too loose, not too tight. So I'm going to pull this right where I think it should be, put a pin in it. So this is the extra we need to get rid of in the elastic. So we're not taking in the skirt. We're just going to be taking in the elastic. So now this stays up on the waist right where it should be. Real quick, before we go any further, if you're enjoying Sewing Anastasia, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you'd like to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my online and in-person sewing classes, along with the online sewing club. Now, let's get back to adjusting this elastic in the waist. Next, what we need to do is measure from the pin over to the side of that fold. Looks like mine's about 1.25 inches, so that means 2.5 inches because it's doubled. So record that measurement, and now you can remove your pin. So now what we need to do is be able to release the elastic, and the elastic is sewn down. Almost all garments have the elastic sewn down, so that way it doesn't turn and move on you when you're wearing it. So we need to undo any stitches that are stitching down the elastic. So there's 1 row of stitches in this elastic waistband, but you could have up to 5 or 6 rows of stitches holding that elastic down in place. And that means you need to remove all of those rows of stitches with your seam ripper. So essentially what we need to do is release the elastic from the fabric. We need to be able to adjust the elastic, and then we can put back in those rows of stitches if we want. So I'm going to start seam ripping out this row of stitches here. Now you can do it from the inside or you can do it from the outside because this row of stitching does show on the outside as well. And sometimes if I have a sturdy fabric, I'll give it a little pull and snap out some of those stitches as well. Moves a little faster sometimes when you do that. So you can already see how the fabric is moving freer on top of the elastic when we remove that row of stitching. So I'm going to finish seam ripping the rest of this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that that stitch is ripped out, it is time to expose that elastic so that way we can take it in and sew it back together. To get to the elastic, you want to remove the stitch that's holding down your casing. And just for like 1.5 inches or 2 inches, you don't need to undo your whole casing. So I'm just going to open up a little bit of the casing. So these stitches here are holding down my casing. And then if I come to the inside, you're going to notice there's my elastic right there. Now that I have this opening here, we can get out the elastic so that way we can trim it down. So literally just pull it out. Pull out more than you think you're going to need to cut off, just so it's easier to work with and it doesn't accidentally slip back into the casing. So when I measured before, I needed to take in 2.5 inches. So I'm going to put a cut in the elastic, and then I'm only going to cut off 2 inches because I'm going to leave that extra 1/4 inch there for seam allowance. So we're going to snip into the elastic. And now on one side, I'm going to cut off 2 inches. So I'm just going to measure 2 inches and cut off that extra bit. So now I have 2 raw ends of the elastic. What we're going to do is we're going to overlap them by 1/4 inch, and then we're going to sew them together. You could use a zigzag or a straight stitch for this. I'm going to go use a zigzag. Let's go do it. I have my elastic overlapped that 1/4 inch. I have my zigzag stitch set. I like to start in the middle of the elastic, come all the way to the bottom. Now I'm going to back stitch all the way to the back edge. I'm going to come to the bottom again. I like to go over this a few times just to make sure it's nice and secure. If it gets caught in your foot at all, because it is elastic, lift up your foot, flatten it out, and just continue. So I went back and forth a few times, and now I'm going to double check it and make sure I caught both of my edges so both pieces are nice and secure. So now I can go ahead and just cut off those extra threads. It's not going to fall apart because we went over it a few times. Now let's talk about what we need to do to finish this so it looks just how it did when we found it. The first step is going to be putting back in the stitch that was holding down our casing. And you should just need to put in max a couple inches of stitches there that you just removed. So I'm going to start right where we left off, making sure my needle is in the exact same position as those existing stitches. I'm going to add a couple back stitches, continue down, and I want to end in the existing stitches as well. So overlap a few stitches, back stitch, and then you can take it out and your casing should be nice and closed up. Now that we have that opening closed up, we need to put back the row of stitches that I removed in the middle of the elastic. And again, you could have rows of them, more than one. So you want to put those back. So we're going to start at the seam or start like at the side seam or the back of your garment, wherever makes sense. Just don't start in the front of your garment. Then when we do this, because the woven fabric with the stretchy elastic, we need to stretch it out flat and straight when we're sewing so that way it cinches back when we release. Otherwise, if we just sew over all these gathers, it's no longer going to stretch. So stretch it out and then start sewing. Stop, stretch it out, and then keep sewing. So you don't want to pull it through your machine, but you just want to keep it stretched. You want to keep it taut. Then before you know it, you'll be right back where you started. Overlap a few of your stitches, back stitch, and take out your project. We are all finished adjusting that waist. Let's check it out. Wasn't that easy? So you can see how nice that elastic now is staying up on the waist right where we want it. And it's nice and even all the way around the waist. And that's because we were stretching it while we were sewing it, putting it back in. And it still stretches beautifully. So we're still going to be able to get in and out of the skirt. It's just going to fit better now at the waist. So now you know how to adjust anything that has an elastic waist. It is super easy. So next time you're thrifting and something's looking a little too big and it's got an elastic waist, you know you can fix it just like that. And if the elastic has completely went bad in something, same method, just remove the entire piece of elastic and put in a new piece. It's that easy. If you have any questions about elastic waistbands, leave it down below in the comments and I'll get back to you soon. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you guys, so let me know what else you want to see. And if you want to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my classes online and in person here in Chicago in my design studio. There's also an online sewing club where you get a new pattern and sewing instructions with pattern drafting hacks every single month. So make sure you check that out too. If you want to know what's going on right now in the studio, what's Iris up to even, make sure you check out my Instagram stories. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.